All right, my people, let's get right to work. Get it funded. 2025 grant writing class, access granted, with your host, facilitator, training development specialist, Mr. Cage. Today's session is going to be focused on preparing grant readiness. This is one of the first steps we must take before we can even think about going through, in Illinois specifically, GATA certification, SAM's number, Cage code, all of these requirements that we need to satisfy. They don't matter. Those items don't matter. Those elements don't matter. Those activities don't matter until we discover if we're ready. With our hallmark program, Potential, we do pre-assessments and post-assessments with our learning objectives in addition to our social emotional learning concepts. Even with me delving in the area of life coaching, anger management, business consultation over the years of my career, I've learned one key principle or fact, and make a note of this. In order to help a person or a people get to the next phase of life, career, and business, we have to identify where they are. I can't help you get to the next place if I don't know where you are. If I don't know your start, I can't get you to the end. This goes hand in hand with today's video. We have to assess first if we're ready. We'll know if we're ready as we go through these different questions, as we go through these situations, these scenarios, and these experiences or lack of experience, if we are ready to go into this opportunity. It takes a tremendous amount of time, sacrifice, dedication, discipline, and consistency to finish the entire process of successfully completing a grant application. This is a marathon. It is nowhere near a sprint. And in my professional opinion, there's a lot of money left on the table. There's a lot of resources left untapped into, or those resources remain tapped into by the same entities over and over and over again because we don't we believe it's too much of a sacrifice, especially in the culture. Social engineering, cultural conditioning have put many of us in a position of delayed, I apologize, instant gratification instead of delayed gratification. We desire to have the results and we want the results to fit our timeline. That is not reality. A person or people will not, and I repeat, will not experience and maximize their true potential if they find themselves under the guise or expression or closely associated with the concept of instant gratification. Maximizing your full potential will not happen. And you will miss out on tremendous opportunities for yourself, for your family, the generation that you've been called to service or serve, and the next generation. The ramifications are monumental. Let's go into this. I have to give you a speech before we go into the content for this session. Remember, this is the first step. This is the first step. We'll be putting this step into the grant writing booklet. Let's see. It's a good resource for us, the grant writing booklet. We'll be putting the grant readiness framework there. You can assess where you are and determine if you're ready to go to the next phase. In addition, it's also a good resource because we have 50 direct links to funding opportunities in Illinois. You can't beat it. We've done the research for you. Share my screen. Assess your agency or organization first before you proceed. Once we complete these 2 or 3 pages, you will know if you are in position to proceed to the next step. That next step can vary, but you'll know if you're ready to move forward after this session. Let's define a grant readiness assessment. It's a systematic evaluation process that determines an organization's preparedness to apply for and manage funding effectively. This assessment helps organizations understand their strengths and weaknesses. Very similar when I think about that in terms of a SWOT: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But in this case, the organization will understand their strengths and weaknesses in relation to grant acquisition and management, and ensures that we're equipped to meet the requirements and expectations of the funders. In summary, the systematic evaluation process determines if we're ready to apply for and manage, because we can be ready for it, but are we ready to manage the funds when we receive the funds? Stewardship principle. We are not going to be able to get away from stewardship management in life. It is a godly principle that no man or woman on the face of the planet is going to be able to avoid. We all have room to improve our management of the resources that we receive. Here we go. It's a hypothetical situation for a fictitious company called Healthy Futures. The aim for Healthy Futures is to promote health and wellness in underserved communities. Organization overview. The mission: to improve access to healthcare and promote wellness in underserved communities through education and resources. How so? We want to offer programs that consist of community health education workshops, mobile health screening services, and nutritional support and cooking classes. That's the overview. Your organization should have a mission, and it should have specific programs that is offered. My professional opinion to you is that, and I'm gonna give you this sidebar. My professional opinion, again, if you follow our videos, you've heard me say this before, and I'll repeat because it fits the moment when we are discussing what programs or services that we are offering. It's my professional opinion that is a very important best practice to understand this. And hear me out. You should know a lot about a little. You should know a lot about a little. You should know a little about a lot. You should know a lot about a little. No, experientially. Take potential in this example. We know a lot about behavior. We know a lot about behavior. We know a lot about teaching kids to think before they do. Not only have we researched it, but we lived it out in our own life experience. Not only have we lived it out in our own life experience, but we have worked for almost over 2 decades with students from all ages, from different countries, from different social and economic backgrounds, how to maximize their full potential when it comes to employability, when it comes to career development, when it comes to business development, when it comes to personal development. We have assisted this sector, this target population, for almost over 2 decades. I started mentoring when I was 27 years of age. This year I'll be 45. It's almost 2 decades. We know a lot about a little. We don't try to be the jack of all trades and master of none. We don't try to know a lot about a lot about or a little about a lot. We don't try to, I don't need to know one, two, three, four. I'll focus all my energy. I'll focus 95, 90%, 97% of my energy on this behavior development, cognitive development, social and emotional development, helping students maximize their full potential. And once I maximize my efforts there, because again, it's a management principle, it's a stewardship principle, doors will open up for me to learn different skills that complement that main skill. Same principle when you look through the lens of assessing your grant readiness. The services that we provide, which of these services is what we specialize in, and what services complement our specialty? Consider that. Consider that. Moving forward, let's go. Assessment framework. Number one, organizational capacity, leadership and governance. Assessment. The board of directors meet quarterly with active participation in strategic planning. Sometimes what you will see in a grant application under the heading of requirements is the board of directors meet on a consistent basis. Now, that consistent basis may vary, but that consistent basis will and most likely will have a number associated with it. 2 times, 3 times. The frequency will vary. The rating in this category was 4 out of 5. Strong governance, but needs a clearer fundraising strategy. I want to throw my thought in there, my hat in the ring, and once again repeat that our funding efforts should be diversified. We should be in a position where we are seeking out various opportunities. I want to keep it general because I don't want to be too specific, because the major focus of this training piece is to ask it's for us to evaluate ourselves individually as a team and our organization. Are we ready to move forward into the next step, whatever that step may look like for us? Staffing and expertise assessment, limited full-time staff, 2 program coordinators with grant writing experience, volunteers assist with programs. Rating is 3 out of 5. Additional training for staff on proposal development is recommended. Can I touch this? Yes, Cage, you can touch this. Let's stop the share in terms of training. Because I'm a training development specialist when it comes to curriculum, program, and people, I understand the importance of continuous training. The reason why is because I'll refer back to a video that another video, I don't remember the title of it, but I do remember this specific portion, which really resonated with me, was being able to adapt to climate conditions. Climate conditions meaning social, I'm sorry, political, economic, social, political, and economic conditions. If we don't adapt and or be proactive in our training and development, we'll get left behind. We'll get left behind. Your continuous training of your staff shouldn't be because you're trying to check a box off the checklist. It shouldn't be because these are the local and state requirements. Your training, your training should be proactive. It should be high quality. If you want to connect with us and talk with us about staff training, staff professional development, reach out to us. You can text PD, professional development. Text our number 773-599-1133 if you got questions or your staff needs some professional development. Reach out to us. And I say that because some of the training that I've experienced and witnessed is us getting on a computer screen, floating through trainings just to get the certificate to say we completed. That is not good enough, y'all. I was gonna say us. That is not good enough, y'all, because if we are going to be on the cutting edge of whatever technology, and when I say technology, I'm saying specifically the discipline and the industry that we find ourselves in, not technology in a literal sense. Our training has to come up. Our training has to come up. We can't continue to do status quo. You can't do status quo training and expect exceptional results. I've shared a similar statement with my students before. I don't recall the exact quote, but it's very similar to what I just said. We cannot facilitate status quo average training and look for exceptional or world-class results. And that will be my statement. We cannot facilitate, be involved in, or do average status quo training and expect world-class results. That is unrealistic. Training is more than the checklist. Your professional development is more than a checklist. 2, financial management, budgeting processes, assessment, annual budget created but not detailed for specific programs. Rating is 3 out of 5. We need to develop program-specific budgets for proposal accuracy, meaning that whatever programs that we have individually, not for the entire organization, but individual programs, those budgets need to be specific for those specific programs. Because in this case scenario, this hypothetical situation, you had 3 programs. So 3 programs, 3 separate programs should have individual budgets in this case. Accounting systems, assessment, use basic financial software but lacks comprehensive reporting capabilities. Rating 3 out of 5. Consider upgrading accounting software for better tracking. Program readiness. Here go my baby right here. Let's go. Define programs and services. Assessment. Programs are defined but lack clear metrics for success. We've discussed this. Your metrics is basically your assessment and evaluation tools that you implement, that you facilitate, that you employ to identify the success of your program. But your success of your program is going to be connected to your goals long term and your objectives. Your objectives are going to push you to the accomplishment of those goals. Your objectives are going to be specific and measurable in the journey of you accomplishing the long-term goal or the touchdown. Data and outcomes measurements, assessment. Basic survey tools used for feedback, however, no data analysis process. Rating is 2 out of 5. We need to establish a framework for data collection and analysis. When you collect the data via your survey, via your self-report, whatever that looks like for your organization or agency, there has to be an analysis process in place to accurately interpret the data. Because when the data is accurately interpreted, we can fill those gaps with practices that we may need to employ. For example, with our potential program, we have a strategy in the program itself that uses stop and think. So you stop and think, this decision I'm getting ready to make, how is this going to affect my long-term goal, my dream, or vision? We hadn't been employing that consistently enough as we went through our data collection, evaluation, assessment, and analysis process. We discovered that this best practice we need to intentionally implement it into our daily programs. Because if we're looking for behavior regulation, impulse control internally in our students, it has to be highlighted and the skill has to be placed in a position of importance to be practiced on a consistent basis. Number 4, we almost done. Compliance and reporting. Policies and procedures. Assessment. Standard operating procedures are in place but unclear on specific grant compliance requirements. Rating 3 out of 5. Develop a comprehensive compliance manual. Past performance. Assessment. Successfully managed a local foundation grant but missed some reporting deadlines. That's unacceptable when you're dealing with funding. Unacceptable. 3 out of 5. Needs to improve timely report processes. Once again, management stewardship principles. We don't want to wait till the last minute to submit our reports. Absolutely not. We've made a tremendous adjustment this year in 2025, and not because it's 2025, but because we took the time and we sabbaticaled away from anything that will become a distraction, which put us in a position to reassess our daily operations. When we complete a session, we document it. Shortly after the session, maybe minutes after, or maybe an hour or two after. And it keeps what that does is that it keeps the memories of the experience fresh in our mind, those teaching moments that we share with our students or that our students share with us, and it keeps the main thing because, okay, what did I learn today? What did we do today? I can immediately make adjustments based on what we accomplished or didn't accomplish the previous day and go into the next day fresh with a clear outlook and our objectives and goals and perspective. Number 5, I think it's going to be one more: community and stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder relationships assessment. Establish relationships with local health providers. Some community feedback collected, but not systematically. Rating 4 out of 5. Well connected, but could enhance community input. Needs assessment. Assessment. Conducted community surveys, but should engage stakeholders and focus groups for deeper insights. Rating 3 out of 5, more comprehensive needs analysis needed. 6, proposal development skills, writing proficiency, assessment, experienced staff, but the proposal writing process is inconsistent. Rating is 3 out of 5. Consider conducting proposal writing workshops. Research abilities, assessment, staff occasionally identifies funding opportunities but lacks a dedicated research process. Rating 2 out of 5. Implement a system to consistently track and prioritize funding sources. Before we get to the end of this, the conclusion, my question for you is, what areas do we need to focus on? What are some of the areas that we need to focus on? And this is a practice session for us to understand, how do we go through and evaluate, assess, analyze when we take our agencies or organizations through these type of assessments. How do we know what to place emphasis on? From me to you, as your trainer, as your consultant, and as your coach, I'm focusing on those aspects. If the rating or the scoring system is up to 5, I'm looking at what's a 2. I'm going to highlight that stuff that's a 2, because that's a major concern for me. Because if I go with a mathematical calculation, 2 divided by 5 is 40%. If I do 40%, and me being an educator, if I translate it over into public school system, 40% is F. If I go 4 out of 5, that's 80%. 3 out of 5, I'm sure that's 60%. We need to look at what those 2s are and what those 3s are. We're gonna place some attention and energy on the 4s, but the 2s and 3s, we got to get down to the nitty-gritty. Moving forward. So let me see what we had as a 2 and a 5. We had a 2. We had some 4s and 3s. 2s were in the data outcomes and data outcome measurements. And if it's a 2 there in the data and outcomes measurement, we need to talk to the hand, because the brain don't understand. We need to go into depth and find out what is going on. Basic survey tool is used for feedback. However, no data analysis process. We got to put a data analysis process in place, because that data, it has to be interpreted and understood, because that's how we pivot. That's how we make improvements to our program. And if we making pivots in our different programs, whether it be 1 or 3, it's going to enhance the entire organization or agency. Scrolling down, let's see. Research abilities. 2 out of 5, implement a system to consistently track and prioritize funding sources. If one of the best practices that I've been giving you is diversifying your funding sources. But if we don't have a consistent process that we track and prioritize the funding sources, then it's a matter of time before we have to close the doors, because we're not implementing something that's consistently looking for these and prioritizing these funding sources. And to some of us, I can assume that these things are simple, and they can be, but what lacks with us is awareness of what we need to focus on from a place of importance. Then from there, we got to put a system in of consistency. We just can't say we consistent. We got to know how we gonna consistent and what consistency look like, because that can be very general. So our score is 22 out of 30. 22 out of 30. Let me guess, it's probably a C. Let's see if I can guess it right. I'm thinking 70%, y'all. Was 22 out of 30, 22, clear, hold on, 22, divided by, what is it, 30? Yep, 73.3. Overall rating 3.5 out of 5. Ready for small grants, need improvements for larger applications. I'm sure, because not having that tracking system in place to identify the funding opportunities and the lack of training. And here are the recommendations. Training workshops, organizing training for staff in budget development and proposal writing, data management, invest in a data management system to track progress, outcomes, and performance, compliance manual, develop a comprehensive compliance manual outlining funder expectations. 4, community engagements, conduct focus groups with stakeholders to gather qualitative data for program improvements. And 5, dedicate grant research role. Consider appointing a staff member or volunteer to focus exclusively on grant opportunities and proposal tracking. So these are the recommendations in order of importance based on numbers, scores, objectives. Sometimes we can kind of feel and sense when we need to employ someone or bring somebody on. However, we can feel it, we can discern it, but let's in this case, in this setting and context, let's use a systematic process to determine what's important. Because what I feel is important, and we'll close out this portion. What I feel is important may not be as important. What I feel is important may not be as important as I feel until I run it through a systematic process and come to an understanding, a conclusion, numerically, objectively, what's important. Because it could be important, but it could be my fourth priority or third. It may not be top tier or one. How do we determine that? We take it through a systematic process. We go through and and here we go. I wouldn't say that we ask ourselves these questions. Excuse me. I would say that we hire somebody on the outside looking in that can give us a objective, viewpoint on where our agencies and organizations are. And I give that plug in to you because if you are an agency and organization that is attempting to apply for grant opportunities, if you would like for us to go through this process with you, a grant readiness assessment, feel free to reach out to us. Of course, the number is 773-599-1133. If you are an agency or organization who is applying for funding, you're in search of grant opportunities. If you want us to go through a grant readiness assessment to determine what your next step may be, reach out to us. As you're watching this video, you can also text that number. You can text, I will text ready to 773-599-1133. You notice in the video, we didn't talk about 501c3. We didn't talk about articles of incorporation. We didn't talk about any of the state paperwork that may be required, because state paperwork is required, but it may vary in different states. But we touch nothing concerning that. We touch more on infrastructure. We touch more on infrastructure because I can tell you from my personal experience or professional experience in business, if the infrastructure is not there, your business is not going to go as far as it could. Your infrastructure has to be tight to sustain the weight of responsibility that your business may carry. Once again, stewardship management principles. This is Mr. Cage, your coach, training developer, for lack of better words, training specialist, and training facilitator for Divine Works Education and Training. I always want you to be great at what you do, but I always want you to be or to aim to be greater at who you are.